Learning from my life's lessons. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday at work, and we were talking about our childhoods and our teenage years, and the beginning, the formidable part of our lives that creates us. And as I was talking to him, he was telling me about his stuff, and he asked me about mine. And I really didn't get into the child end of it or the teenage end of it. I did get into my first day of work at a company. I worked in a factory, and they made heels. And I remember distinctly after the first week of work, I showed up for the second week on Monday, and right above my machine was this pipe that was a sewage pipe, and the pipe had a leak in it, and it leaked into this bucket a few feet away from my machine. And it was hot. It was a summer day. It was probably 90 out and muggy, and they had no kind of ventilation. It was just windows, and they had the set 8-hour days, and I had this boring ridiculous job. And I went on my first break, and I walked out to the door to get some fresh air, and I'm looking across the parking lot, and there's people sparking up marijuana, and other people's, not smoking cigarettes, and I remember saying to myself, is this the rest of my life? I had learning disabilities, so I wasn't going to college. I could barely get the job I had because of my learning disabilities. And I remember going in there, and I felt so hopeless. The part that I'm trying to explain to you is this hopelessness was also part of my Crohn's colitis. It was part of my sickness. The hopelessness was part of getting into drugs and alcohol. And I felt that was my whole life right there. I really didn't have nothing. I didn't have a girlfriend. I had a piece of crap for a car. I was making like $3 an hour, $4 an hour. I was working all these hours, and I remember opening up my first check and looking at it, and I was like, that was it. I remember that hopelessness so vividly. And I was explaining this to my friend, and he looked at me and he says, that's not who you are now at all. And I says, no, it isn't. I says, what happened was, I says, I boxed myself in back then. I says, this is what I could do. And no matter how much I dreamt or I wished, I lived in this little tunnel that this was my life. And all my wishes were on the other side of the wall, and there was no way I could reach them. And all I had was walking down this path that was narrow and dirty and hot and had no light. I left that job at the heel company, and I moved to another factory where it was hotter, but you made more money. I was still into drugs and alcohol. Then I went to my I got laid off from that company, and I went to the company I'm working for now, and that was almost 30 years ago. In that company, that's when I got sick. That's when the straw that broke the camel's back, that's when I got diagnosed with it. I think I was sick from the age of probably 18, but I didn't get really diagnosed until I was like 21, 22, maybe 22. And then I spent a few years being sick. It got me to a point, my sickness, my thoughts of who I was, pushed me to a limit. of going, I have nothing to lose. I tell you guys this all the time. I have nothing to lose. And my friend was looking at me, and he didn't know any of this about me. And he looked at me and he goes, that's not who you are now. And I says, no, I'm not. And he finally asked me what changed me. And I says, I healed myself. I says, it was like I took a sledgehammer, and instead of walking the path, I decided to break the wall beside me. And I was going to make a new door. And I made a new door, and it opened it up to a whole different, not a path, but a wide open field that I could move from one thing to another until I found what I wanted to do. From the day that I had my first solid bowel movement, and for about 5 years, from today, it was the day I broke through that wall saying, I'm not living this life anymore. In that time, I spent 8 years in martial arts because I had so much fear. I had a fear that people were going to hurt me, and I needed to protect myself. And I realized that I always could protect myself. I did not need to have fear. And I also made friends with death. I realized that it's part of my life. I really don't want to get into this part of the conversation, but I made friends with death, and I realized that if I have fear of death, that means I am not living. I'm fearing death. I have accomplished so much. It amazes me, and all I want to do is more. I studied martial arts for 8 years, got to very good at it. I never read when I was in high school, textbooks, library. I think I've been to the library 5 times in my whole life. But now I read all the time. Actually reading a good book that I should review on this is called The Source Field Investigation. It's an excellent book if you get out there, but this is a whole different thing too. And I am looking, my life is all about right now is what else can I do? That is my question. This is my life. What can I do next? I took up running. I'm 260 pounds. That's not a runner. That's a weightlifter. But I took up running, and now I'm running barefooted. And I don't know if you've heard of the 5-fingered running shoe. They're toe shoes. I love them. And I'm up to a mile, and I'm going to go more. And the thing of it is, it's not about how far I run. It's building the base. I'm actually enjoying the whole process of creating a perfect stride, a perfect body alignment. I am meditating as I'm running. I'm fully engulfed in my body and how it works. I'm loving that path now. I'm getting into more and more with nutrition, not for Crohn's or anything like that, but to feed my mind. Working in the pineal gland and DNA, and I'm discovering one thing, is that we're capable of doing anything if we just slow down, enjoy life, and truly live. My life lesson that I want to share with you is this. Get out of your head. Go. If you want to run, run. If you want to study something, study it. Follow the paths of the universe. You don't want to be sick anymore? Don't be sick anymore. Use your mind. Find a way to use your mind. Meditate. Ask me anytime, any question. I will answer the best I can. Research what isn't the norm. Research the stuff that they don't want you to know. Understand and go and just open yourself up to everything. Just go out and have a ball. It's life. Enjoy it. There was a part in martial arts when I was first sparring and working out and doing all this. I had so much fear about getting hurt. I would go and spar, and this guy knew it, and we used to spar all the time. And it wasn't one person against one person, it was the whole class against you, and you had to, there was so much action going on, you didn't have time to think, you reacted. And I'll tell you something, that's the way you deal with it, and I love it. But I remember one day I'm sitting there, and I was meditating still. I was meditating way before I was doing the martial arts. But I remember one day I said to myself, I said, Bob, you really need to get over this fear of being hurt. And you really need to get over this fear of dying. And I remember myself going into a meditation, and there was this black demon. It sounds weird, but it was a black demon I created in my thoughts. And I laid myself out onto a rock in my imagination, and I bared my chest, and I says, if you're going to kill me now. And I sat there, and I was in a meditation, and I was fully aware of what I was doing. And I noticed that monster would never come up, and he would never pierce my skin. Because the minute he took my life was the minute that he did not exist anymore. He did not exist unless I existed. I created him. The minute I realized that, that's when there was no power for him. I took his power because I realized I created it. I hope this life lesson helps you. Have a nice day.